as we go. But we're all very excited to be here today to talk about what is very close and passionate to all of us to a certain degree, which is how technology and AI are disrupting real estate and construction. Where is innovation solving problems? And most importantly, is how should everyone in this room, whether you're a real estate owner, whether you're an investor, whether you're a broker, whether you're any type of stakeholder from a construction standpoint to a subcontractor, everyone invariably is going to be utilizing technology in some form or fashion. And the challenge is always about how to think about it, how to go about it, how do you implement it, where do you spend your time, where shouldn't you spend your time, and who's out there to help you in this process. So first, we're gonna introduce the panelists. We have a very diverse and very experienced group of speakers up here that we're very excited about. First, we want to also thank the event host for everyone for organizing this and give us an opportunity to talk about this subject. So we'll start. Why don't we go right to left, because there's always going to be a right to left component of what we do. So Yaron. So we have Yaron Goldman. Want to introduce yourself? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
There we go.
Terrible. Okay, my name is Yaron. I'm in the US for the last 2 years. I was the managing director or the CEO of Ashton, a construction company, one of the biggest construction companies in Israel. And I'm here, the managing director of loss prevention company dealing with an app that helps builders manage their safety. We use AI, and that's what I'm doing here. After 35 years in construction, have a lot of experience of both worlds, also technology, also how it needs to be done on the field, and the gaps we have.
Great. Eli?
Eli Mansdorf. I'm the opposite of Yaron. I've been living in Israel for the last 2 years, and now run a tech platform which focuses on the long tail real estate investor, otherwise known kind of as the rinse and repeat. We finance them, let's call it 1 to 20 units or so, through a tech-enabled platform that allows them to seek competitive financing pretty much across the residential space, and filters it out by criteria, and allows them to have access to their competitive financing super quickly, efficiently, and a little bit of an easier manner for pretty much everyone on every side of the transaction.
Ilan Bracha, running IB Global. It's two funds. Fund one, it's mainly for flips, buy and sell on a short term. Fund two, it's mainly for income producing. Our funds backing up a startup that we open, which is a trade-in platform. We trade in the homes exactly like trading cars. So we love the concept of taking something very complicated and make it simple in real estate, basically.
Cool. I guess that leaves me. You know what I love about real estate is that you can have 4 white Jewish men on stage and it's a diverse panel. That really works. I'm Andrew Ackerman. Nice to meet you here. I've been investing in early stage startups for the past 15 years. I started off as an angel investor. I did everything wrong and I got lucky. I admit that. Past 5 or 6 years, I've been investing in prop tech, real estate technology, and construction tech. And I just found out that Ilan and I have kids in the exact same grade in high school.
Crazy.
Totally by chance.
Great. Well, thank you for all being up here on this beautiful venue, beautiful day. I wanted to just start by painting technology is such a broad subject matter, right? It can really range across individual real estate from the transactional side all the way to EV charging stations, right? It can impact workflows and automating processes, and it can solve problems. Some of the biggest problems that are existing right now that we all know can attest is decreased financing, high interest rates. How is that impacting the marketplace? How are landlords and owners thinking about where technology can improve that? Decreased commercial occupancy. 1.5 trillion, as we know, as the maturity wall is coming to fruition. So what are landlords and commercial real estate owners doing, and how can they impact their buildings and their operating incomes and reduce their costs? from regulations. We all know in New York there are local laws that are really going to start impacting landlords and real estate owners and developers in various different ways. So Andrew, you've invested in over 70 startups. You look at the ecosystem, whether it's through Second Century Ventures and Reach, through individual direct investing in Dream It, where you've been an accelerator in helping these companies grow. What's your thoughts on how do you look at the prop tech and construction tech landscape? How should real estate owners be looking at it in the same vein?
Do we have an hour? Okay, so just from a very, very high level, and this is what I recommend everybody, you have to start from where your pain points are and where your comfort level is engaging with startups. If you are brand new at this, just go through your business. Where does it hurt the most? Is it leasing up a finished, say, multifamily rental? Is it on construction loans? Is it on, I don't know, worker safety? You have to decide what moves the needle for you personally. And then once you've figured out, I need to solve these problems, then you want to work backwards to like, how comfortable am I finding startups that are new to the game and maybe need help with their product and making it work for you, or how much do you want to, or how much do you want to get involved when they're a little bit more mature, have more referenceable customers? So that's really how I would approach it, and I can't do anything between this and 1 hour. That's the short answer.
Yeah, well, look, I think it is, and I know we've talked in the past about how you can kind of categorize and prioritize some of the most impactful areas that, let's say, real estate owners should be thinking about, whether you mentioned transaction solutions or whether it's automating leasing processes. Where do you think the top areas right now are from an investment standpoint in terms of prop tech or construction tech?
Sure. So if I were doing ground up construction right now, I'd be looking in around the construction loans and the refinancing part. And there are startups out there that are marketplaces for those types of loans, and perhaps that's where you want to start. If I had properties that were in pre-construction, I'd be looking at virtual touring solutions. I'd be looking at virtual staging solutions. I'd be looking at other kind of leasing office tools that help you, lease that building up and stabilize it as quickly as possible. On the flip side, if I were looking at just massive vacancies down the road, I might look at alternate leasing opportunities, maybe shared space among multiple clients. But again, it all depends on where you're coming from and where your pain points are or you expect them to be.
Yeah, and I think, one thing we should all remember, our pain points can also be someone else's competitive advantage and how they're solving that. Ilan, you've been in the industry for over 25 plus years. You've been ranked as one of the top residential brokers in New York, one of the top ranked brokers nationally. You've launched your own fund where you're not only investing, but you've been able to also sell your business in 2020, which is one of the top brokerage firms to Keller Williams. How have you seen technology evolve since inception, and where has it created competitive advantage for yourselves or others in the industry?
Thank you. So I think mainly as real estate, you moving information and you moving papers. So papers will be maybe the financial side of it, and I take the construction out for a second. And you're moving information to make transactions. So people, what we can see on the digital world, what technology is bringing in, is to move those information faster, is to move those papers and moving it faster and more efficient. And that's what we brought in, at least, what we focus on in Homage is shorting the time of 9 months of pain when people's buying and selling, finding the place, showing the place, and then make decisions on them. So take the 9 months and can I short it to 9 days? And in order to do it, you need to feel need to be a trust level. So if you zoom out for a second, for every real estate transaction, there is moving of information, moving of papers. There is a trust level that's those people that you go to a mortgage guy, you go to a broker. You always have those trust, and that's what we want to bring it in faster, trustable place. So we are market makers officially now because we buy and sell, and we eventually will come a market place. So that's
Yeah, and I think we'll obviously want to come back and unpack some of that. Just to put it into context. So Ilan has launched Homage, which is, as you mentioned, it's a platform to accelerate the buying and selling of condos in the residential space from 9 months to 9 days. And I think what everyone should recognize is that technology is really here to impact time. Manual processes, where you're investing time and how to accelerate that time, because we all know time is money. So maybe as yourself, as a market maker, when you're on the brokerage side of things, and now you have a fund, how have you seen data impact decision making in different spectrums that you touch?
So the thing is that we are not inventing anything. None of us. It's like everybody inventing a little bit something, and then if you take everything together, it's very powerful. So information is out there, and there is more places that the information become cleaner. It was always there, but it's just now it's much more cleaner, and there is ability to get all this information. It's make life easier to make decision. So I think this is the major point that we need to look at it. When you are a fund and you need to make decision for buy or sell, or if you are a buyer just for yourself when you want to buy for your home, which is probably the biggest decision of your life, if you're getting all those information or someone doing it for you in an easier way, a simple way that's like a push of a button, because you make decision every day and tons of decision. But when you get to a big decision like that, everybody's freezing up, everybody looking to the friends, family, who's going to help them to make those decisions. And I think right now, as technology coming along, it's just easier to make those faster decisions. It's make more sense. So don't think about us for a second. Move 10 years from now. I have 8-year-old kid. He's not going to go to open houses to look for an apartment. He's not going to do those decisions that we make. It doesn't make sense for him. So we need to look and see, okay, what's going to happen 10 years from now, and then go backward. How people will make decisions in the future of taking loans or building homes or things. This is how we need to look to the future and then go backward, at least.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. And, just touching on whether it's 10 years in the future or the pain point that's hitting us right in the face right now, Eli is now, he's co-founder and chief real estate officer at Digify. So maybe we can also spend a little time just briefly giving us a background of what Digify does. But what you're really impacting is how real estate valuations and cap rates and in the lending environment like we're in right now, where have you seen kind of technology been a part of your process? And then maybe also give us a little background on your company.
Yeah, great question. So I think similar to what Ilan said, I mean, I think a lot of the reluctance to adopt technology in the real estate space is focused on the fact that we think, okay, cool, these are still decisions that humans need to make. There's so much, hand-to-hand combat in every single deal that we say, hey, cool, technology can't replace this. But it shouldn't. That's not what it's there for. It's there to really aid and make you more efficient and make your processes quicker. And the data, like that Ilan mentioned, is important because the data is there for deal 1, but we should make that data reusable for deal 2, 3, 4, and 10, right? And that'll make all of those deals a little bit easier. So the way that we've approached this is that the technology is here to make your process more efficient on all sides of it. So like you said, as cap rates have compressed and as capital has become more constrained, it's imperative that people understand all the optionality that's out there for them. And technology is a way to really scale that super quickly. So let's say, for example, like we focus on what we call the long tail investor, right? So the rinse and repeat investor, the person who's doing a series of flicks and flips or short-term rentals, ground-up construction, call it the 1 to 20 unit space, the investor that's been neglected for a long time, both on the service side and on the tech side. So for those people, speed is imperative. These deals close within 30 days, 45 days, 60 days. If we can make that process for them a little bit quicker on the front end, which means submit a deal to us, and then we get that thing filtered out to the right lender in the right time frame, it's easier for them, and it's easier for the lenders in the backside as well. Because if you're a lender in the room, what's the thing you hate the most? It's getting deals that just don't fit your box over and over and over again, because that just takes up your time and it's inefficient. So we've said, let's look at this from both sides of it. And this is just a small part of the real estate field, right? Everything has to get a little bit more efficient. It's not here to replace the human, it's here to aid the human and make them 25% better at what they're doing. So if we can make that easier on the lender and on the borrower and make everybody a little bit quicker, deals get processed faster and you make more money, which is what we all want to do, right? So the technology part of it is important, but it's important to think of it as an aid and a way to really utilize the data in the right way.
I just want to kind of stay on that theme because I think a lot of people in this room has a different relationship with technology, right? Some see it as this way to accelerate and improve their day-to-day. Some see it as this passing fad that is completely an aversion. I don't want to think about it. Technology, smectology. I don't really care. It's not for me. You've been involved in technologies but from an acquisition side, and you've been involved in a lot of different types of prop tech companies in-house. What are some of the top three things that you want everyone to think about as it relates to technology, integrating as it relates to real estate and construction?
Yeah, I mean, number one, everyone knows this. I don't know, deals are really hard, right? Like deals take a long time. Like I use the word hand-to-hand combat all the time. Like deals take a long time, right? We want to do anything in our power to make that just a little bit easier on everybody because that'll make the next one easier and start reusing that data, reusing that information, reusing that tech to make our processes easier from the front end to the back end. So number one, the tech's not going anywhere, right? It's going to continue to evolve. We'll figure out what makes sense for everybody. So the way that we've approached this is to say, hey, cool, maybe we looked at the iBuyer world of the last 4 to 5 years and said, okay, you can't really make decisions from a technology perspective that are, so all-inclusive, like a buying decision. The computer's not going to make that decision for you, but let's at least make it a little bit easier. So I think the important thing is let's not think of technology as a way to replace what we're doing. Let's think of it as a way to aid us, right? So this is not taking the place of your originators. If you're on the acquisition side and the debt side, it doesn't make a difference. It's just going to make their lives a little bit easier. If your originators have tools to be better at what they're doing, you're making more money on the back end of it. And then, I'd say it's permeating into everything. So you mentioned earlier, like EV charging, right? So, if you're not thinking about how all of these technology factors are going to affect you, like Ilan said, 10 years down the road, then you're already 10 years behind, right? So you have to be able to think about what's the next piece of this that's going to affect me personally, whether you're a landlord, a lender, a broker, it doesn't really matter. Think about your property and say, if I don't have an EV charging station in 5 years, like I might be missing out because they're going to the next guy. And it's really important to take that next step forward, and no one's asking you to be a visionary and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the founder. I'm going to make it happen. But just don't be averse to it. And then kind of figure out how to integrate it into your daily life as a real estate titan.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Yaron, you spent over 35 years in construction. You were the CEO of a division of Ashram, which for those who don't know is one of the largest construction companies in Israel. Where you really worked from the bottom all the way up to the top and became the CEO of that business. And now you're the managing director of what can be perceived as an industry-disrupting loss prevention AI, where you're really impacting and saving lives on construction sites and workplace facilities, and that is having a significant impact on how insurance companies are leveraging technology such as yours. Before we jump into any of the technology aspect, maybe you could talk about how have you seen technology evolve in the construction space?
I'm 35 years in construction. You always hear, we know this, we did that. Nobody needs technology. But I believe without technology, building such a complex ecosystem as a construction site with so many subcontractors, so many people, I'm talking about sites of more than 500 or 1,000 employees one time on the site, you need to manage all this. Without technology, it's impossible. And you talked about it, about embracing technology. I used to say I'm from the generation, I used to check the Excel. We never believed. We took a pencil and a paper to check it. And nowadays, you feel you cannot do anything without technology because it's so complex, so big. So you need the assistance of technology. And saying we did this in the past won't help you. So after being 35 years in construction, and I've seen the impact of the tragedies, about accidents, about the incidents, people getting injured, people lose their lives. And we say, and the motivation to go into embracing technology into safety was, as the Talmud says, who saves one life saves the world entire. So this was one of the incentives to go into this field and combine between technology and trying to save lives, to save people, because the impact is terrible. And I've seen it firsthand, 35 years in construction.
Can I ask one quick thing? When you hear us say, you got to look 10 years out, don't be discouraged. It's our job to look 10 years out. Like I'm investing He's got a startup. He's got a fund. The important thing for you is to get started somewhere. So take one example, like smart apartments. There's technology you can use, the locks, the lights, carbon monoxide sensors. For us, that's kind of old hat already. But if you're not doing it yet, it's new to you, right? Look at it, see if it makes sense for you. Don't worry so much, I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. I don't know what's going to happen in 10 days, right? Find a place that makes sense for you to get started. Don't be discouraged.
Yep. And not to make a shameless plug, but there's also a lot of companies out there that you can help with this process. Our business, FTPT, we've been around since 2019, but our focus is we bring a lot of real estate and construction technology and innovation here into the United States from Israel, and we also work with a lot of companies here. And the key focus that we have is not just identifying through our syndicate of real estate landlords and developers and partners which technology can help them, but how we go about implementing and how we go about assessing and then driving measurable results. And we all know that implementation of technology is by far and away the hardest part of the process. And Yaron, you have a great perspective on this because you were an end user of the Safeguard Otoos platform. You've been in construction, and now you're on the other side where you're now going about implementing technology. So maybe talk a little bit about best practices and methods about how to go about implementing technology.
First of all, implementation is tough. I always say we can decide we go to the gym every day, but it's tough to go. So it's not easy to decide, and there's a big difference between decision and doing. So implementing is, as I said, is tough. First of all, you need that the interface of your product should be simple, because especially in the construction industry, most of the people are, I call them fat fingers, older guys, older people, so you need to make it simple. You need a lot of hand-holding through the process of implementation. But with our experience, once you started with one site, you expand very quickly to more sites. We have in the US, one of the clients, we started with one site. We're now with 7 sites. So you see at the beginning it's tough, it takes time, it needs an attention, and then it's fast to implement. So the first step is the hardest, but once you're in, you're in. And as for me, as being on the other side as a user many years ago, of course, the implementation is very important to work with a company that can help you do it. So these are the 2 factors, hand-holding and easy platform. Hand-holding and easy platform, the best thing is to combine them together for a fast implementation.
Yeah, I'd like to stay on that theme about implementing technology because I think everyone on this table, around this panel, has been involved in it in many different fashions. Maybe, Andrew, you could start, and I open this up to all the panelists, but how should you be engaging with technology? What are the steps that you should be taking? What have you seen been successful? And what are the things that you should be aware of in terms of negatives as it relates to assessing and adopting technology?
Sure. That's a really big question. I'm going to try to break it down into pieces and make it very actionable. So really there's a couple of steps. So the first step is you have to know what you want to look for. Right? We talked about that a moment ago. What's your pain point you're trying to solve? If you're at a wedding and you want to go to the carving station, go to the carving station. You don't wander the smorgasbord aimlessly. Right? So you pick out what you're trying to solve. Number 2, you need access. So you have to find a way to find the startups that are solving that problem. And there are a bunch of ways to do it, from going to conferences, to partnering with a VC fund, or to becoming friends with different VC funds, to finding a trusted partner who helps you with business development. And there are a number of ways you can do that. We can go into that a little deeper, time permitting. Once you've surfaced startups that solve your problem, and there are almost always multiple startups or more established companies that do, you need to think about how do you assess them? How do you pick the one that's right for you, best overall and right for you? And if you're relatively new at that, you probably want to work with people who've been around the block and know how to do that, though over time you'll learn how to do that yourself. And then the last piece is, once you've picked one, how do you structure the deal with them? That's usually pretty easy. They'll tell you what it costs. But then also, how do you prepare your own organization to work with them? And there you have to really think through what the incentives are within your own organization. If you're a relatively small developer and everyone can fit around the table, great. no big deal. You tell everyone it's important, you work on it together. But once you're a bigger company and you've got a lot of different sites and you've got layers of management, you have to think to yourself, like, I'm asking somebody to adopt technology when their entire bonus and their entire advancement in the company is based on everything but how many pilots they do. So the bigger you get, the more you have to actually think about that last piece, which is within my own organization, how do I make it worth everybody's time and easy for them to partner with the startups that you found?
Yeah, I mean, open it up.
No,
I
it's,
don't know.
I agree with you a lot. I think if you break it up to what's my goals and what's going to happen, what's going to help me to solve it. Right now, when we start, we came up with this vision of what we want to achieve, and I'm sitting down with the CDO, and he's saying, well, wait a second, but we don't need to build everything from scratch immediately. We should build it with steps. I said, what do you mean? Well, let's do it. More people, let's finish it up, let's get it going. But I learned, obviously, with my experience as well, that you build what you need to help you to get to the goals. And today there is technology exists, you absorb or you adapt those technology for whatever help you to get to your goals. So in your business, you know exactly what makes you money. Is it more transaction, it's more contact, it's more opportunities, more information, whatever it is that's helping you getting to your goals, that's what you need to adapt. And there is technology out there for you, for sure. Not maybe yes or no, there will be better. But for now, there is tons of technology app and company that can help you get information to start with. Just data itself can help you, a lot. So I invest in a company from day one as an angel investor. That's why I start to get to know to tech companies, doing data, cleaning data. Cherry, I don't know if you're familiar with.
They're one of my portfolio
Oh
companies.
yeah,
LD's the
beautiful.
best.
Yes, so I was the first dollar in the incubate for my office, and it was just beautiful to understand how much problem in data there is in the city. For an example, there is 2 or 3 addresses for the same building, and today, going forward 5 years forward, there is an existing data that can help you a lot making decision and doing anything, just getting to your goals faster and better.
By the way, that's optional step number 5. Once you've done the 4 steps I talked about, if you want to invest in the startup, that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that to start with. So, walk before you run.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Totally.
look, it's also about measuring results, right? How do you actually measure results? How does that impact me? Maybe Ellie, you can talk a little bit about your experience on different tech areas and where you've seen measurable results in your line of business.
I'd expand on these 2 points a little bit, and I think Michael, you probably asked these 2 questions when you're working with new startups, which is number 1, do you have a clear value prop, right? Like, what problem are you trying to solve? And if you're doing it, are you doing it better than what's already out there? If you're not, then your technology is not really serving any real purpose. Number 2, are you actually solving a problem, or are you just creating tech because the tech is cool, right? Your tech has to actually do something. So there's a lot of companies out there, startups for sure, that you look at it and the tech's awesome, but are they really solving a problem, or are they creating a problem to solve? And I think one of the data points that has shown us that this is a problem that needs solving is that once we rolled this out, even on a soft basis, we got an unbelievable amount of requests that people said, hey, cool, this is awesome. Can we white label this, right? Like, this is a problem that needed solving for us. Can we take this and put our name on it? And when you have that kind of data feedback, that market feedback that says, all right, cool, there's actually a problem out here, and your tech can solve it, then you're on the right path. But I think, number 1 for me, and when I've thought about investing in different kind of tech startups, the number 1 question for me is, what's your value prop, and is it clear? When you go to market, is this tech that's actually usable, and do people actually need this?
Yeah, maybe Yaron, because I think everyone in this room wants kind of specific tachlis details. Like, let's get into the meat of it. So Otoos, you're using technology, AI, data. What is your measurable result? Where do you think you guys are creating an impact in the industry?
First of all, as the problem is that we have this crisis, we have more than 5,000 deaths in construction or work-related deaths in the U.S., and it's a big problem. More than 150,000 fatality incidents, people getting injured, and it's a big problem. So actually, we measure, we count, and we give you a score for your safety, a safety score on a construction site between 0 to 100. And once you get this score, you can work with it. Because you know if your score is going down, that something is bad is happening. And we collect all this data, bring it to this second or the immediate second to eliminate the next incident, okay, to stop the next accident. So all this data through to our AI system to make sure that the next incident won't happen. Our track record is reducing 70% of incidents along the years with companies we work with. And we have two values here. First value, as I said before, saving lives, but the second value is saving a lot of money on insurance, because all of you guys know how much you pay for insurance, what's the insurance rates, especially in New York and New York City, and how expensive it is. And the fact that we can lower the incidents, and we collect the data, we lower the incidents, and we save money on insurance. And as I said, 70% reduction in incidents. It's not 70% down in insurance, but it can sum up to 30% lower of the insurance rates. And we do it because we can quantify the safety.
Yeah, and I just wanted to piggyback off that because we've been engaged with a lot of insurance companies who have significant technology focus areas on what areas of technology can reduce the loss ratios of their clients.
It's win-win. Everybody wins.
And so
Everybody
ultimately, thinking about problems, and maybe just to preface, let's think about a problem that we know that exists in the industry and what technology you think can really address that problem. And we all know that NOI is a big issue for a lot of real estate owners right now, right? So how do you break down NOI? Well, obviously, one aspect of your operating income is your expenses, and insurance premiums are only going up. So how can you reduce your premiums as it relates to that, right? Whether it's water technology and sensors in that regard, or impactors workers' compensation through technologies like Otoos.
You have the stop work orders. You have so many effects of incidents that can cause you so many damage, so big damages. So it's all over the place.
Yeah, so maybe opening up to the panel, where do you see some of the biggest problems in the technology that's solving some of those problems?
I mean, it's every part of the business right now, right? It's everything from how do I speed up my lease ups, or if I bring, how do I get an edge? Like, let's say I have office space, right? Like, it's a really tough world out there right now. So what can I do to make the test fit process that much less painful for a potential client so they choose my property versus someone else's? What amenities can I offer that make them more likely to want to use my building versus another building?
Maybe give some examples that
Sure.
that
So
you've come across.
I'm going to drop the first buzzword of the day. I'm going to use the word AI. By the way, if you've been in the industry as long as I have, there's different buzzwords that come out. It used to be natural language processing, and then it was blockchain, and then AI, and you have all these startups. And they come and they add it to their deck. It's like fairy dust, and you got to really dig in. Is it really AI or is it not? Leave that to me. You guys, if you want to, you just have to ask them, does it solve your problem? But I'll give you an example with test fits. We're at a point now where you can take your floor plan, and there are startups out there that will help you say, okay, I have a client, they wanted these many desks, these many private offices, this much common area, show me a couple of layouts that work. Right? And instead of going to an architect and have them draft it, you can get that right away. On the residential side, let's say you're a leasing agent, you're bringing people as pre-construction, you don't even have the place built. You can show them a 3D tourable mock-up, and it can actually be furnished to their needs and tastes on the fly by an AI decorator. Those are legit uses of AI right now. Let's say you're a little earlier in the stage and you want to develop. There are a number of tools out there that will help you figure out what's the best and highest use of a property, either by going through all the overlapping zoning codes or by figuring out what has been built and then intuiting, okay, this is what you could do in the zoning codes, and this is often what you can get waivers for. So there are legitimately tools out there on every step of the process that can help you.
Right. Yeah. Buying properties also is very, NOI. When you look at the NOI and the return, this year was very terrible. It was very difficult to value any buildings, but we're using in our platform valuation for an apartment. So we do immediately valuation of a condominium. Within second, you go to homage.ai, you put your address. We're giving you buying power to buy something else from our platform. But the way we're giving you the buying power, we're giving you valuation of your property. In residential and commercial, it's different. Residential, you can do it based on data that exists. If 6B sold for $1.2 million, most likely 5B will be $1.2 million and change or $1.1 million and change. So in commercial, it's based on return, and it's very complicated because the finance part is make a big play. Plus, as an investor, it depends on your horizon. If you want to hold it for 5 years, if you want to hold it for 10 years, or you just want to fix and flip. So there is many ways to look at it. Now, the information, it's out there. You need to get it based on your goals or your plan and mix them between, and create your own results. That's why I think, there is a problem, but there is if I know what the banks can give me as a finance quicker, I can make decision quicker on should we buy it or not.
Yeah,
So
maybe we could play off that because lending is obviously a big factor in today's environment and digify your lending solution. So maybe, Ellie, do you think that there's a way to ever really automate the lending process? And what are your views on how and in what capacity that can be automated?
Yeah. Ever automate is a long time, right? I don't know where we are, in 10, 15, 20 years from now, but I think all we can do right now is give ourselves the tools to get much more efficient and competitive with what we're doing. So because equity, I think a lot of people know, has become so constrained as well, debt is already constrained. It's put even more an emphasis on what can you do on the debt side, right? Like when I'm underwriting at a deal, my NOI already may not make sense. So what can I do on the debt side to actually figure out what my options are? So maybe a couple of years ago, you can go out and say, hey, I have a guy or a lender who's done 2 or 3 deals for me. A lot of those lenders don't exist anymore. Their capital's constrained. Maybe they're still underwriting your deals, but they're going to show you a 50 LTV instead of the 65 or 70 they were looking at before. So what do, right? So what we've done was created a solution that says, let's make sure that you as the borrower have all the optionality that you need to figure out what your options are, both when you're underwriting and when you've already gone down the process of getting ready to close. So by using this data, by aggregating all this data together on the lender side and creating optionality for your borrower by a competitive marketplace of lenders within this tech-enabled platform, you have the ability to go out and do things really, really, really quickly and efficiently, right? So instead of having to go make 500 phone calls or having a broker make 1 million phone calls for you and then figuring out who's lending and who's not, you should know right away who's lending on what criteria and does it actually fit your deal, but you don't have to do that for yourself. So you put it into the platform says, these are the lenders that work for you, this is what's out there for you at this time, and that saves you on the front end a ton of time. On the back end, it saves you money because you automatically have competition for your debt, and you can understand who the options are for you as you figure out whether you're underwriting a deal or you're closing your deal, what makes sense for you, right? So, to your question, as NOI has become more constrained and difficult to make sense of it, it's not even just on the acquisition side, on the refinance side, right? So, we see a ton of things right now where people come to us and they were way over leveraged on their first purchase, and they have to come out of pocket significantly based on what their existing lender or what the lenders that they've worked with in the past were dealing with. So how do you turn that around and make it into a positive? Figure out who's out there who lends on your specific criteria and your specific geography and in your specific dollar range, right? So as debt has become constrained, lenders' boxes have become a lot smaller. You don't know their boxes, but utilize the tech, utilize the data to figure out what those boxes are and how they fit you, right? So like Ilan said before, figure out how that data can fit your specific niche and then take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I just want, we've all, I think when we're thinking about AI, the first thing that comes probably to everyone's mind is ChatGPT, right? And these other AI, intensive platforms that can really help use artificial intelligence to help facilitate our decision-making process. It's not we're going to make a decision for us. It should never make our decision for us, but can help gather all the information, help increase our ability to make informed decisions. Maybe Ellie talk about, or someone talk about, what is AI? Where do you see it really impacting, the industry?
I'm not going to talk about what it is. I'll let Andrew get on that as opposed to me. But I think I look at it like this. I'd say almost look at it, and this is this is a broad analogy, but look at it as like what the cloud did to business 15 years ago, right? Like, before the cloud, it probably cost, millions, hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars to start a business, to start a tech company, to try to figure out how to make yourself more efficient. And then all of a sudden, you can start a business for like $50 or $100, right? Like, I'd say think about AI like that. We're still in like the early learning stages of what things like AI obviously existed for a long time. It's come to the forefront with ChatGPT of what ChatGPT can do for us. And we utilize a ton of AI internally, that contributes obviously to a little bit to our secret sauce that we're not going to share here to a certain extent. But I think it's understanding how to utilize it, but we're still in such early stages of figuring out what it can do for us. It's silly not to try to start figuring it out now because, like I said before, you're going to be caught behind if you don't think about how important it is now.
I mean, Yaron, you may be able to talk about it a little bit more because what Otoos does is you take, I guess, the leading indicators and the lagging indicators which identify risk on construction site, and you're aggregating data, whether it's through your own platform or vision technology, wearables, and all that, so the system itself can help identify risk. So where have you seen AI, and how do you interpret it as impacting your clients?
We're happy with the AI because we see, for an instance, we know that the last few stages, few months of a construction site, the most dangerous time on a construction site. And let's say the AI on Mondays, it's a very dangerous day. So, the system recommends automatically all kinds of things that to be done on Monday. Let's say you're an employee, you're under the age of 25, and you have all this information inside, and the system is going to block you at the gate because maybe something happened at the weekend. So you need an extra site safety orientation before you go to the job. And then the system will connect or push a notification to the floor manager on the 30th floor to check you at between 10 and 12 to see everything is okay with you, all right? So you're using this enormous enormous data to do all kinds of preemptive leading indicators to make sure no accident will happen, and actually it works. You see on construction site that they read the daily whatever site safety orientation, just like robots. The AI will know exactly on what stage of the construction site you are and recommend to the people on the field what should they do today, what should they focus today. Depends on the weather, if it's an icy weather, or if it's a, like a terrible hot weather we had last week. You see this crane accident, what happened last week in New York. So all those information, all the data is collected, and the AI actually is working for us nowadays. Of course, we're improving it all the time to make sure no accident will happen. And there's a line you can connect amount of accidents to pay money you pay on insurance, and it's a no-brainer. The more you work on safety, you pay less on insurance at the end of the day. So it's all connected.
Yeah, and just a few thoughts before, maybe we close it with some final thoughts from the panelists and also open up to questions. But, I think that we all know in the real estate world there's a lot of collaboration that happens in deals and co-investing on opportunities, but there isn't a lot of collaboration as it relates to identifying, implementing, and scaling out technology within the portfolios of peer buyer groups, right? So one of the things that our business is really looking to do is help landlords and developers understand their problems, recommend solutions that have been proven by other prospective similar organizations, and then measure the results and make sure that it works. And once it does, then you have an opportunity to really potentially scale and capitalize and invest in these types of companies. So maybe Andrew, maybe start with you. You talk about how maybe real estate owners, developers, and construction companies should be thinking about investing in the technologies that they're ultimately adopting.
Sure. Let me ask you a quick question. Has anyone in this room invested in a startup? Just show of hands. Okay, a couple of brave people there. Let's go back to the framework I talked about before, right? You've got your problems that you think are a big deal for your organizations, and you're working backwards. The next step is how do you get connected with these groups? So there are about 4 ways, more or less, that you can get connected. One is you're going to the conferences, preferably where you're talking about and meeting startups who do that kind of thing. If you're a larger organization, you have more ability to do it. If you're smaller, time is limited. You could do the same thing on the other end of the spectrum to start Googling, like I need a leasing solution, I need a smart apartment solution. The two more interesting ways for the purpose of our conversation here is who can you partner with and get to know. So let's start with investors in startups, angel investors or VC funds. It is a VC fund's and angel's hobby, but a VC fund's job to be looking at these startups. So you can go out there and you can find VCs who specialize in real estate technology, introduce yourself to them. They're going to want to meet you because you are potential customers for their portfolio companies. And you say, I'm very interested in meeting startups that solve problems A, B, and C. I'd love to know if you have any companies in your portfolio that do this. I'd love to know if you've heard of any companies, and just be in regular touch with them. And if you do this with 3, 4, or 5 funds that specialize in your space, you'll have access to several hundred startups through them who potentially can do it. Now, they're going to push the startups in their portfolio. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. But at least you'll start to understand where's the cutting edge in this kind of, in whatever problems you're starting to look at. Now, conversely, you can also look at companies that, for a living, do business development, either on behalf of the startups who are looking to get connected with you, or on behalf of your organizations to find it. And there you've got to go ask around, talk to their customers, talk to their clients, understand, are they any good at what they're doing? But there, at least, you're going to get a direct pipeline to the startups. You can say, I'm looking for X. Can you find me X? And that's a particularly good solution for the mid-size and the smaller organizations where, you just don't have a lot of time or spare staff people to be doing and cultivating the relationships yourself. Once you've done this for a little while and you've got a sense of where the market is, and this is the startup of 5 that you think is the winner, then depending on where that startup is in the process, they may be open to taking investment. Now, if they are very early, angel stage, they have no revenue yet, that's a ballsy position to take for your first investment, right? It's a totally new environment for you. If they're a little further along, then okay, great, they've got 10 customers, I want to come on. Then the question is, do they want your money? Like if they're raising $10 million and you want to put in $50,000, it's a little harder to get at. So then the question becomes, do you try to get into those rounds, or do you try to invest in the VC funds who have consistently been bringing you, good options there? And there's a long conversation about how you pick a VC fund, which I won't go into right now. But that's it in a very big nutshell.
Maybe just to kind of leave the audience with a few kind of key thoughts. We've been talking about how technology can automate and save a lot of time. Automate manual workflows, how to streamline processes. That's really what we're discussing here in its entirety, and how that can impact saving you time and saving you money or increasing revenue streams. I think we all know that there's active needs that buyers have, right? Which I know I have something I need to purchase, and therefore I'm going to look for an active solution for a problem that I have. And then there's latent solutions, right? Where you don't even know that you have this problem could be solved by something that exists in the marketplace, and that will naturally create an interest because it can solve a problem you didn't know could be solved. So maybe, whether Ilan or Eli, maybe what are some of the key takeaways that you think everyone in this room should walk away from?
Okay, so I think it's in every business. I'm not sure which one is what he's doing, but in real estate, I'm assuming everybody in real estate. In any business, it's about the people. Whatever the team that you have, this is the extent that you can take your income, your profit, your revenue. Now, technology allowed you to work with a smaller team, very strong team, and create a huge revenue. And in order to do it, you need to, even for now, like we use the ChatGPT to finding the view, just a description of what we're looking for. The technology is there, but the people is the one who's going to take you there. So just focus on the being around, surround yourself with the right people, and the same way, surround yourself with the right technology that's allowed you to create bigger revenue and go and achieve your goals. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's being open to innovation, right? So I think if you're thinking about how to make whatever it is that you do, if you're on the lending side, on the buying side, or whatever it is, be open to what's next. Like I've been on pretty much every side of it, the office side, retail side, lending side, equity side. You know, and every place you're in, you can kind of point to something that changed what you do on a daily basis and made it a lot easier. Like anyone's on the retail side, think about Matterport, right? Like, you know, when that came out and you can kind of see what things looked like without having to be there that second, it made your life a little bit easier because every broker deck looks really good, right? But we can actually see what a place looks like. You can figure out which broker decks actually look good and which don't, right? So it's about zeroing in on the tech and on the innovation that can actually make your job a little bit easier, and then being open to it, right? Don't look at it as a replacement for yourself, but as a way to supplement what the really good people on your team, like Ilan mentioned, are already doing. So it's not always a matter of saying, hey, I need to, you know, cut workforce. Let's figure out how the tech can replace them. But hey, I have a really good workforce. How can the tech help them be better at what they do already?
With us, it was a big change. We started our passion as it was about saving lives of people. And then we see how we transformed to our clients. They started to see the financial aspects of saving lives and how it can impact on the bottom line. So I think we have the values from both worlds here. So this for us, the passion was about saving lives. That's how we started.
Great.
So I'll just add, there's no substitute for being in a market. Like everybody in this room is in a market and they know what the market is at any one point in time, right? I'll give you a very simple example. You want to buy a condo or a co-op in Manhattan, you got to go look at 30, 40, 50 apartments to understand what you can get for your money in that neighborhood. There's no substitute for seeing a lot of deals to understand what market is for your particular sector. It's the same with tech, right? If you want to really understand what's going on, you have to be in that market, thinking about it, seeing dozens of startups, either yourself or find someone that you trust to kind of be a force multiplier for you. Someone or some ones who are out there who are there every day and know what's market for the tech that you're looking at.
Great. Well, look, that was very insightful, and I appreciate everyone's thoughts and comments. Any questions from the audience? Any thoughts on technology? Yeah, I'll bring you the mic.
Well, first off, thank you for the panel. It was very insightful to hear from all of your perspectives. So my question is, as far as real estate goes, it's a very slow-moving industry, right? It's a lot of long-term thinkers. So how quickly do you think, or in your experience, have you seen technology be adopted into the industry, whether it's like construction tech or different things like Matterport, et cetera? What's that timeline like, in your opinion?
Well, if you're the buyer, it's really in your hands, right? How quickly you want to adopt any particular piece of technology. In the venture world, there's always a curve. They're the early adopters who are like 10, 15% of any given market, maybe a little less in real estate and construction, where like they see a shiny new toy, they have to try it. And then there's kind of the second wave, the people who are like, yeah, you figure that out. I'll come to you after you've like cut yourself on that toy. But I want to get there early enough that it gives me an edge in my business. Like I don't want to mess around with like all the smart apartment toys that don't really work very well. I don't have time for that. But the moment like there's one or two of them that seem to be working well, I want them because I want to get the higher rents before someone else does. And then you've got the broad middle of the market, 30, 40, 50% of the market, which will adopt it when it becomes painful for them if they haven't. I'm the only property on the block that doesn't have a remote doorman. Like, I'm going to get screwed. And then there's going to be your remaining 20, 30% old school, like they just have to die out. Those are broad numbers. I mean, you could argue that we're a little slower in real estate, and construction has been even slower for a number of reasons. But it's in your hands to decide how fast you want to move. Do you want to be a first adopter? Do you want to be that second wave? Do you want to wait until you have to do it? And even within where you want to be, it's for what technology, right? This matters to me. I'm going to be an early adopter for this, but I'm going to wait until it's more mature for something else. That's your choice to make.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think it changed also with the consumer. So the consumer that you have in mind now is the people that you see basically. It's almost like when you have an offer and then you see a contract signed, and then we have the results like 2 months after you see in the city that it's sold and closed for 2 million. But if you have the contract signed information or the offers, you actually knows where the market's standing at the moment. So the same things here. The consumer will change, and they will adapt it much faster than what we're seeing right now. And it's compounding in a very, very strong level. So by the time you're going to say, how fast, I didn't realize we went so fast, it's because the consumer also changed with it. And you will see it. It's just right now we allowed ourselves to see it like in a slow motion. But it's not, it's definitely happening in front of us.
Yeah. Think about it in also the sense. ChatGPT just came out. Some people have never even used it. Some people have multi-million dollars businesses as a result of it, right? So if you think about that across the spectrum, there's a lot of people who are adopting technology, and that's their competitive edge. And for those who don't realize, they'll find out later on when it's actually created a significant impact in the industry, right? And I think it all boils down to market fit and how that fits into your business. And depending on how quality and how strong the fit is, that's going to accelerate the adoption, or it's going to be a slow trickle event like it's been discussed.
Yeah, I think you have to be, like I said earlier, open to the innovation, right? If there's a purpose for it, someone's going to use it. It's just a matter of how quickly that gets adopted. The fast movers are the ones that will benefit from it long term. But, that's why when I think about startups, I always think about, is this a problem that actually is solving something? If it's not a problem, if the problem doesn't exist, no one's going to use the product. If the problem exists, someone will use the product, and then it just depends how effective it is to see how fast it scales.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I wanted to see, is there one specific sector as it relates to real estate or construction that you think has not been as affected by technology that you think is starting to, and how can we kind of utilize what you're seeing as the next wave of technology to change, and how can we utilize that to become more successful in that specific sector?
Yeah, you see more than us.
I was going to
We need
joke
to sign an
cemeteries.
NDA
I
before.
mean, it's almost every sector of real estate has technology approach. I will say construction tech is a few years behind prop tech. And the reason to many respects is that there are so many different players involved at that stage. You've got your architect, you've got your general contractor, you've got the developer, you've got the subcontractors, you've got the different brokers involved, and sometimes you have the insurers as well. And because there are so many different players with so many different incentives, conflicting incentives, it has been tough to get technology adopted across projects. So that's actually taken longer. There's a mind-blowing chart where they compare productivity in the construction sector to productivity in the manufacturing sector over the past 70 years. And in manufacturing, it's growing up and to the right as you expected. Its productivity is going up. In construction, it's actually gone down. We have gotten less efficient in construction over time. Now, we may be taking that in safety, right? We'd rather have fewer people die than have the project done faster. But that's why construction tech tends to lag. But we are seeing more and more adoption now, and it's very, very exciting.
I will say the finance side, if I need to guess, the finance side of it, like decentralized way than what you have right now, the centralized banking and the fintech. I think this is something that's, if you're saying what will be the next wave and changing, when the younger crowd would want to be part of every aspect of the finance part, like the loans and so I think that this is something that will probably be a more fun way to get in and more safe, and people will feel comfortable with it, and it will come with the years. But that's definitely I think the decentralized finance part of will tap into the real estate in a big way.
Yeah, I would second that for sure. We see that all the time, right? Like if you're going to buy a building, you know what the asking price is, but then think about it, you don't know what your debt's going to look like. like you can't get a quote just from it. You can't just go online and be like, all right, cool, this is cookie cutter debt I'm going to get. It doesn't exist. So if you have the ability to then go and say, all right, the financing part of it and the equity part of it is a little bit more predictable on the front end, you can then actually make something out of the actual asking price on that building or that property. But right now it's all kind of hidden with the centralized bank system or whoever the lenders are. So making that a little bit more accessible for the younger generation that's coming in so that deals can get underwritten more quickly is a lot more efficient.
Nobody wants to work in construction. You want to build those buildings, who's going to build them, right? So first of all, you need to save the labor force and not make them get injured or dead. But I see it going into robots, because who's going to build those buildings? Think about that. Maybe print them.
Robots and modular. We can talk about that in a different panel.
But it's not, it's science fiction right now.
Well, I wanted to thank everyone for their time. I don't know if there's any final questions, but we can discuss them after the fact. Thank you all the panelists. I hope everyone was
Take
able
a picture.
to get something out of it, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Nadav?